Kenzy Knoxx, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I just wanted to say thank you for stopping in and watching. And today I thought I would take it nice and slow and just do a real beginner painting of some palm trees. And so let's just dive in and just start painting. And so to begin off with, we'll need some very just standard colors. So my palette here consists of white. There we go, that's the white, some cobalt blue, some phthalo blue, and some cool blue. And we'll be adding some colors as needed as we go, which include probably some yellow ochre, and some apple tart green, and some black as well. But we'll get into that when needed. And so I've gone ahead and primed my canvas, which is media paper, with just some white acrylic paint. And you can do this too. You can do 1 or 2 layers. I just did 1 layer just to keep it real simple. You can go ahead and do that and then let that dry. And you can speed up this process using a heat gun or a hair dryer or anything of that sort. It will really help speed up the drying time. And so I'm going to start with this very small filbert brush. And we'll be using probably like just only 2 or 3 brushes, one of them being a fan brush and another one being a larger filbert brush. But we really can use any brushes that you have. You can use a flat brush, you can use an angular brush, you can use any brush you have. You can even just use one brush if you want. But to begin off, we're just going to create a waterline using maybe just some cobalt blue or some phthalo blue. Just get some blue on your paintbrush and just draw a line across your canvas. This painting actually cropped my canvas into a square, which it's actually a rectangular 9 by 12, and as such, half of my painting got cut out. However, this actually makes it much easier for beginners to paint. So just on your canvas, if it's square, just go up about 2 inches and draw a straight line across, and if it's rectangular, go up about 1/4 of the page and draw a straight line across. And now we're going to begin to paint in our water. And to do that, we'll probably use the colors of phthalo blue, some white, and maybe some cobalt blue, and maybe a little bit of yellow. We're going to make it more of an aqua-y, like a green aqua color. That's what we're going to do. Our sea is going to be a green aqua. And so again, you'll need some phthalo blue and some yellow and a little bit of white. And our sea is actually going to be darker in the background than it is to the foreground. So as it gets lighter in color, it will become closer to us. So starting with that mixture that you've created, go near that line that we created, that we drew across the canvas, and fill that area in right below the line. And then as we come below that area, we're going to just pick up white paint, add it to the mixture, and swirl around your paint on your palette, and then just start painting the area below it. And every time that you pick up paint, add a little bit of more white paint to that little pile of paint that you have on your palette, and that will create a nice little gradient, and also it'll make it look more realistic, and it'll show that there's depth to our painting. And once we're done with our water, we're going to start in on our sky. And in order to draw that in or paint that in, we'll need some cobalt blue and some white. And this sky is also going to transition from a lighter color to a darker color up at the top. It'll be a very gradual transition. It'll be barely noticeable, but just noticeable enough that that too will add a little bit of atmosphere and depth and more realism to our painting. And this is something very simple that a lot of painters do. They'll create either a lighter area at the horizon point or a darker area up at the very top of the canvas, so that it draws the eye towards the center of the piece of work that you're painting on, which in our case will be the palm trees. In this case, because we have a lot of sky to cover, we're going to make a big pile of this color blue. And in this cobalt blue, I'm also going to add in a little phthalo blue, which will help create a reflection of the watercolor. And basically the ocean and the sky reflect each other in color, so we want to make sure that the colors semi resemble each other. They don't have to perfectly resemble each other, but somewhat resemble each other. And now you can see that I'm starting to create a transition layer of going darker in color. So I'm adding probably phthalo blue to my original cobalt and white mixture, and this is going to be a very gradual transition. Please keep that in mind. And if you're having trouble transferring your paint to your canvas, or in this case mixed media paper, we're just going to add a little water to our brush, and that will help the paint slide a lot better. Be careful when you're adding water, because a lot of water can ruin your painting. It can also thin out your paint so much that the color won't really show much on your painting, which is something we really don't want to do. So just make enough paint that you can fill in all of your sky. And remember that we're going to be adding more blue color to our palette mixture as we add paint each time to our canvas. So right now, every time you see me dip into my palette, I'm picking up more blue, mixing it into that original cobalt blue and white mixture, and then putting it down on my canvas. And then mixing and blending that all in nicely, and making sure that my paint doesn't dry before you mix it, because if it does, it could cause a little bit more of a problem. It's nothing that you can't fix. It's very easy to fix. It's just more time consuming, and we're just trying to make a quick little easy painting just so that we can relax and have a nice enjoyable evening. And at this point, you can see our transition going from the lighter horizon area to the darker area up at the top of our canvas, and that's exactly the look we're going for. Or the light itself in general, and making them more white. They are what they call vapor. It's water vapor essentially in the sky, and it is see-through until it builds up to a point where it is not. And so you can see there, I'm creating white little strokes, little blobs if you will, and you can do it this method too. Another little tip for you is that the bottom of the clouds tend to stay in these straight lines, and the top tends to be all bubbly and whatnot. So you can use that method. And another method, there is a movement in your clouds. So if you create almost an angle where your clouds start bigger on one side and get smaller on the other, and you drag that trail, kind of swoop it down into, so in this case it would be down into the left. If you did that with every cloud, it would create sort of a movement, and it would create atmosphere, and it would create depth in your painting. So if you want to go that route, you can go that route as well. You can do whatever your little heart desires. You can even make little fluffy cotton ball clouds here too, if you'd like. I'm just going a little nuts, so I'll speed this up for you guys so you don't have to sit there and watch me create dozens and dozens of clouds. However, if you want to see my technique done the way I'm doing it, you can go ahead and speed down the speed of the video using the YouTube settings, and you can probably speed it down to quarter of the percent rate, the speed at the 0.25% speed, and then watch me in a more detailed setting, I guess, and draw it like I do, or paint it out like I do. And so now that we're wrapping up our clouds, we're going to start in with our palm tree stems or our palm tree trunks. And to do that, we're going to take some black and some brown, and we're just going to draw a line coming up from the bottom and another line coming up from the bottom as well. And these two lines are basically going to be coming off the page because my painting, like I said, got snipped off quite a bit. So if you'd like to see the full tutorial of the real painting, please let me know in the comments below, or like and subscribe to my channel so that you'll know when I release the actual video. But in this case, you can start one stem about a quarter of the way in from the left side, and then the other tree trunk can almost come directly from that other tree trunk and just come to almost the same height, just bending it out a little farther so that when you draw in the palm trees, they can somewhat be separate from each other. And now we get to start the funnest part of all, which is creating the palm tree leaves. And I love palm tree leaves. I could paint these all day long. And to begin off with, we just need a dark green color. So any dark green color will do. So go ahead and we're just going to draw in a little arc here and there. And depending on if you want there to be some wind in your painting, you can draw them all going off in one direction. If you want it to be just a nice day where there's no breeze really whatsoever, you can just draw them going in any other direction that you really want to. It's up to you. You are the artist. And so these palm tree leaves can go basically in a pinwheel direction, just like mine are right now. And then we're going to be using a fan brush. Now you need a mini fan brush to do this. I have a lot of trouble with fan brushes, especially anything larger than a mini fan brush. I have not been able to figure that out for some reason, but make sure your bristles are nice and spread apart. That is one of the biggest things that I found to be helpful. If they clump together, I find it very difficult to make palm tree leaf, like those little leafy things, the separation of the leaves. And so once you've wet your brush and grab some of that dark green color, using the same green color, that dark green color, we're going to load up our brush on both sides. And I'm going to just load up my brush basically on the middle section of my brush. You can see here I'm testing it out on my palette. This is very important to do because you want to know what it will look like on your canvas before you do so. And so now I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to start kind of putting it down on the canvas and pulling in a direction and then gently lifting it off. And I'm going in the same direction that the palm leaf is going in. And I'm kind of pulling it all off and making sure that my leaves are all the same length. And it's very simple to do and it's super fun once you get it. And on top of this, we'll be adding some shadows, or this will be our shadow there, actually the deepest color there. We'll be adding highlights and some yellows, and it'll just look absolutely magical. And you'll be so happy that you painted this painting today. And once you're done your first palm leaf, you can go on to your second palm leaf. And I just tend to start from the outside and work my way in. It really doesn't matter which direction you go in, as long as you just get those leaves in there. And remember that the leaves do come from both sides, so even if you think you messed up, you probably didn't, because you never know, it'll come out as a masterpiece. So don't give up, just keep going. You can really always fix a painting, especially if it's acrylic, if you even think you messed up. Even if you draw a line that you don't like, you can really easily erase it by just taking a wet paintbrush and just kind of scumbling over the little error that you made and wiping it off on a towel and continuing to scumble that paintbrush until you remove all the paint that you think you messed up on. It's a really simple procedure and anybody can do it. Ooh, like right here, I think I messed up here, and I'm just going to keep going until I think I'm pretty happy with my palm leaf, and then I'll fix up any errors that I really think that need fixing up. And don't forget, we will be adding layers. This is how you can scumble to remove the paint. See? Easy peasy, no problem whatsoever. So don't worry about any problems. Just keep going. And worst case scenario, you can always just cover it back up with some blue or some white and then some blue, and it's really not a problem. You can even do this with a brush that's a flat brush or an angular brush to create these palm leaves. Sorry I didn't say that in the beginning. I was just so excited about my fan brush that I recently got. You know, I had to go through several bundles of fan brushes just to find the one that I wanted and the one that worked for me. And maybe you'll have to do the same thing, because I feel like when you buy a set of paintbrushes, they never give you a mini fan brush. You need to really search for it, and it's a lot smaller in size, and it is worth the money. So if you find one, I mean, don't go spending like $10 or $20 on it, but if you find one for maybe like $3 or $4, I would most certainly go ahead and purchase it. It is completely worth the money. As a tip that I learned along the way, each palm tree should have around 5 at least 5 or 6 palm leaves, and I noticed that one area seemed to be a bit bare, so I decided to add an additional palm leaf right here. And you can also see that I also messed up with my fan brush. I was just trying to create a simple line, and I just happened to catch some of the bristles that were just not in the area that I thought that I wanted them to be. I don't know how to really explain it. They should be able to create a simple little line, and I just messed up. So I just fixed that real quick and easy. Another issue that I quickly resolved by just scumbling off the paint, no problem whatsoever. And now I'm gonna create the palm leaves off the main palm leaf stem, I guess you would call it. Sorry that my hand is in the way. I didn't realize while I was painting that the camera angle would be a bad angle, so I will need to swap this up going forward. Another thing I noticed is that some of my palm leaves are longer than the other ones, so I decided to lengthen some of my palm leaves. And you may need to do this or you may not need to do this. I just felt like my palm trees wanted to have bigger palm leaves because that is the main focus point of my painting. Now that I'm done with my first palm tree, I'm on to my second palm tree. In this one, I'm going to do a little bit differently, where I'm going to draw out a palm leaf stem, I guess you would call it, and then I'm going to add the palm leaves to that stem area. And I really don't know the terminology for it, but I'm going to do these each one by one and see how this comes out. I think I like this method better. If you're having trouble transferring paint to your canvas, go ahead and add a little water to your brush. This will really help transfer that paint. Make sure it's not too much water because we don't want drips, but you also might come to a problem where your paint all smears in together too, and we don't want that. We want your paintbrush bristles to be separate from each other, so make sure they don't glob together, because you'll come with a leaf or a palm leaf that just looks like a solid leaf, and that's not something that you really want. It's almost like similar to the first leaf that I made, but we can fix that up with some highlights, so I'm not really worried about that. And so now I'm just going back and forth between my small number 2 flat brush and my small little my fan brush to create these leaves one by one. And I like this method a lot better because you have a lot more control of where you think the palm leaves would better sit on the palm tree. And again, you can have as many palm leaves as you want. It's really up to you. Just aim for 5 to 6 leaves or more per palm tree. And now that I'm done pretty much the 2 palm trees, I'm just going to add in any other little palm leaves that I think would suit my trees and make them look a little bit better. You don't have to do this. I think I'm just having so much fun with my fan brush that I just keep adding these leaves. And so now I'm just going to take my fan brush and fix up any little areas that I think need touching up. And now taking the dark green color, we're just going to add a little bit more yellow to it just to warm it up a little bit, and add a little mid-shade green. And we're just adding a slight highlight to our leaves. And we're going to add this just here and there and everywhere, really, just to add just a little bit of something. And then eventually we'll be adding in just like an apple tart green to really highlight our leaves. And I want you to keep in mind that the center of a palm tree is generally a lot darker than the outside leaves. So when we do our highlights, we may highlight the stem area of the leaf itself, but for the leaf portion of it, the leaves, the actual leaves that come off the tree, we're basically going to only highlight the ends of them, and the very ends of them will most likely be highlighted in yellow. But keep in mind that you want to only highlight the areas where you think the sun will be touching the leaves. So decide where you want your sun to come from, and then add your highlights from there. And now we're going to add a little highlight to our tree trunks of our palm tree leaves. So my sun is going to be coming from the left side, and so in that case, I'm going to be adding a little bit of that brown and yellow color together, and I'm going to be going down the stem along the left side of the tree trunks, along both sides of the tree trunks, and then I'm also going to be adding a shadow, so taking that brown and add a little more black, I'm going to be adding that towards the right side. And when we're doing this, we're going to want to create strokes that resemble the tree. So make sure you bend these strokes to make the tree look rounded. That's kind of important. I mean, for this, if you want your painting to look more realistic rather than having just random lines or blobs on your tree, you really kind of want to create the same shape that the tree is in. now taking some white and just a touch of yellow, I'm really going to outline the left side of the highlighted portion of the tree, just so that you can really see the highlights. And now I'm going to add just a little bit more yellow to the trees where it's getting hit by the sun. And now we get to use our fun fan brush again, taking that apple tart green color, which is a mixture of, even you can take phthalo green and some yellow and some apple tart green, or just go with the apple tart green itself. And we're just adding some highlights here or there, keeping in mind that the center of the tree is always going to be the darkest, and the farther away you get from the center of the tree, the lighter you'll get. So you can see the yellow on the outermost leaf part of that leaf, I guess you could say, that part will be yellow, but only that part. The rest of the trees might be highlighted with greens, mostly the stem parts and some of the leaves, but never really like the leaves towards the center of the tree. And so now that we've completely finished our palm trees, I hope you really enjoyed this YouTube tutorial. I know I have. It's been quite relaxing and quite easy to do. Again, quite a bit of my painting has been cropped out, which is fine, which would have been a shoreline with some waves coming in. And if you want to see that full tutorial, be sure to let me know in the comments, and be sure to like and also to subscribe to my channel so that I know that you guys like my content. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. Okay, bye!